the Celestial Perspective Podcast, bringing you a fresh perspective on the Celestial Church of Christ.
Hey there, amazing listeners of the Celestial Perspective Podcast. We appreciate you for following this podcast. We appreciate your comments, your reposts, and other engagements. We've been on an incredible journey together, exploring thought-provoking topics and sharing valuable insights. But to keep the conversation going, we need your support. We are on the lookout for headline sponsors and generous donors who believe in the power of meaningful conversations. Whether you're a business looking for exposure or an individual who values the impact of our podcast, your contribution can make a real difference. Reach out to us today. Let's make a positive impact together. And for donations, please use the account number showing somewhere below. Until next time, stay tuned to the Celestial Perspective Podcast. Look out for our next episode, and let's keep the dialogue alive. Hallelujah. Welcome to another beautiful episode of the Celestial Perspective Podcast, where we bring you a fresh and true perspective on the Celestial Church of Christ. It's always a pleasure to be with you and to be with my co-host. But firstly, my name is Joseph, and as usual, I have beautiful Oyinkan in the house.
Thank you. You always gas me up, Joseph. Thank you.
All right, yeah. So we have an iconic guest in the house today. He is a shepherd, and this is peculiar to the topic of the day. His name is Evangelist Daniel, also called Big YS.
Big YS.
He's a clergy in Celestial Church of Christ, a preacher of the word, an astute leader, and author par excellence. With over a decade of experience in shepherding the flocks of Christ, he has brought many to the kingdom and has built several leaders in the fold. He is the founder of Celestial Singles Fellowship and the leader of the Shepherd Lives Matter campaign. That brings us to the topic of the day. Shepherds' Lives Matter.
Mhm.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome, sir. We're glad to have you on the
Thank
show.
you, Oyinkan. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes the beginning of our discussion can be quite climactic. And I hope you people don't mind. And I hope you don't mind too,
No.
sir. Yeah, during the saga of the quagmire that was called COVID-19, there were a few things that happened whereby we found out that other churches were actively involved in the welfare of their ministers and their pastors. And, it was only expected that our church too would respond, to the crisis by taking care of our ministers and the shepherds in our church. And, at some point during the crisis, I heard that the church donated some money to the government of the state of Ogun, I think to the tune of 20 million naira. And it raised a lot of dust. And there were certain uproars here and there that the church has neglected the shepherds, but yet the church is donating some money to the Ogun State government, probably because there were other churches who were doing that too. How true are the specifics of what I just said? And, what was the reaction of both the members of the church and the shepherds? How did they sail through this crisis?
Thank you, Joseph. The birth of Shepherd Lives Matter, the word, the campaign itself
Beautiful
came.
cap, by the way, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Came in 2020 during the time of this crisis, of COVID crisis, where we saw a publication, and it was genuine because it came from the church's official Facebook account that we should go to a particular website and input our names, our registration numbers, and our account details, that money were going to be dispensed to shepherds to relieve them during this time, and which we did. In fact, there are some provinces that their shepherds had to pay the province head to help them fill this form and a whole lot of that. But to our surprises, nothing came in, and we later heard that it was a fraction in the same office that made this announcement that the pastor was not aware and a whole lot of that. And, it got to me personally and to a few other of my colleagues. And we took it up and we were so gassed up that we started this Shepherd Lives Matters campaign that the authority should look for something. At least there are some shepherds, there are some parishes that are in rural areas that there are no provisions for shepherds. There are shepherds that has less than 10 members in their churches. There are churches that are not well built. There are churches that are still built with bamboo. How do you want these people to survive? So we started raising foodstuffs, and we started going to some places to donate to them.
All right, you mentioned something that is really worthy of note. There are that's the stratification of church size and shepherds in these respective churches. We know that there are big cathedrals, churches that have a lot of members who are well-to-do, and churches that are thriving when it comes to numbers. Whereas there are other churches that have a very minuscule number of members,
Congregation.
and we know that in certain churches there are more lacks. In others, there is quite an abundance, and this is a dichotomy that cannot be erased completely. I am also a son of a shepherd, so I firsthand I witnessed some of these things. We were quite fortunate, but there are a lot of shepherds who cannot boast of the same, would I say, luck of comfortability, of availability of uh, resources. Now, there is a scheme that I know, or there is a structure on ground, a system of maybe compensation for shepherds that has been on ground even before I was born, probably during the era of the pastor founder, whereby a
The
portion of
system was to divide
yes, if you can give us more light on that,
what
sir.
you make in a month.
Yes,
to three?
into three. Yes,
Yeah, you give one to the headquarter.
yes,
The one goes to the church purse.
yes,
And one goes to the shepherd and its workers.
and his workers, which means that the
Yes.
shepherd does not only share 1/3 alone.
No, it shares with everyone.
Now, in a church that has a return of, let's say, hypothetically speaking, 1 million naira, and another church that barely makes 20,000 naira in a month. Now, this disparity, how do we account for it? Because this topic is shepherds' lives matter. And if a shepherd comes back home after he must have remitted it to third with just 3,000 naira, how do we naturally expect such a shepherd to survive?
Thank you, Joseph. This is really a very thing that should concern everyone. And just like you said, some churches are well fortunate. Some churches pay returns to the tune of 1 million, 2 million per month, while some churches, for example, makes. I have a church that makes 7,000, 8,000 in a Sunday.
7,000 naira or
Yes,
dollars.
on a naira on a Sunday service.
And there is a shepherd, there's a presiding shepherd
And
there.
there's a shepherd that has workers. Okay, let me use an
Wow.
example. My own church. Sometimes we don't make up to 20,000 naira in a Sunday.
Let me ask you a direct question. Are
Yeah.
you a full-time?
I've been a full-time
Minister.
shepherd for 12 years now. A shepherd in charge
Wow.
of a church for 12 years now.
All right. So you were saying that shepherds make some shepherds make 1 million, some 7,000. Is it the duty of the church to help the shepherd grow his parish, or should the shepherd be left alone to just endure whatever as much evangelism as he can do? It's
As
really not
as
it's
part
really
of
not the fault of the church that
his
the
responsibility of the
audience is not
cross.
growing. So is it the shepherd's cross to try to populate his own parish or expand, or what do you
Thank
think?
you, Inko.
Yeah.
In this our generation, there are churches that people will prefer to go to.
Okay.
The generation we are into believes in churches that have all the glamours,
Mm.
the POP churches, the big instrument churches,
Aesthetics.
yeah, aesthetics,
Yeah, right.
yeah, people wants to go to churches that have everything.
Right.
Nobody wants to pay owe kole,
Mm.
so when you are growing a parish of little parish with whatever thing you have, and
Mm.
somebody just comes from London, from UK, and build a parish next to you that
Mm.
has everything already, and
Sir, don't you
it's
think?
even giving breakfast to people who comes to church on Sunday.
All right, so don't you think it's up to the shepherd to be able to evangelize? As we have many titles, senior shepherd evangelist.
Just like I told you now,
Okay.
the evangelism our generation believes in involves the things they see.
Money.
The things they see, the opportunities. They
The
believe in
Not
okay.
shepherd.
necessarily the
They
money,
believe
but
Connections and the
passage.
they
influence.
believe, they believe the
Yes.
shepherd that
Glamour.
comes from London
Yes.
can take their child to
Or
London
a
one day.
new, very
Very
beautiful
correct.
edifice or a cathedral just
we are
open.
talking as if we are not even aware that this generation doesn't even they don't want to hear much of Jesus Christ. They want to go to a place where they can pump up, they can, in places where on their harvest day they can take all necessary alcohols and a whole lot of things.
Okay.
Now, when you speak, I've grown to a level that even when you speak too much
Mm.
of the gospel of Christ, people will feel offended and probably start leaving your church.
When you speak too
I've
much
seen
of the
people who will
gospel,
come and meet you like, Olusho, iwasu te se yen, emi le fi bawi.
should that not be the crux of everything?
Yeah, it should be. But
Okay.
just like I told you, there are churches that have bent the gospel
To
so
suit.
to suit the members that are
And
coming.
to quote unquote grow the church.
Yes, to grow the
Yes.
church.
Very
They've
correct.
spared the rod. Their pulpit is now a place of entertainment, motivational quotes, not the
Yeah.
gospel anymore.
Yeah.
So, people tend to go to that place, because it's beautiful, it's fine. So now the shepherd is evangelizing. Now evangelism even involves money.
Correct.
I mean, how do you evangelize with it without a good instrument? Even the media will not repost you if your church is not fine.
All right. So you said now that evangelism requires money. Do you think a shepherd's sole source of income should be the church? Do you think a shepherd shouldn't have other streams of income to fund the gospel of
Now,
Christ?
before we go there, because
Okay.
I wouldn't want us to jump the gun in this
Okay.
discussion. There is a train of thought that we have left unattended. You already spoke about how the incidents of 2020 galvanized shepherds' lives matter and all that. Now, this is my question: the current structure on ground for the compensation, or is it the word remuneration, of shepherds, is it effective in our day and our time? Splitting the earnings of the church or the income into three, taking part to K2, taking part here, and sharing one third amongst. Is it an efficacious strategy in today's world?
Thank you, Joseph. I'd love to explain this very well.
Okay, sir.
During the days of our fathers, splitting returns to three, no matter how small your church is, used to be very effective. Why? Because members used to come with all sort of thanksgivings. When the money is not enough, the shepherd goes back to Thanksgiving items like the food they used, the everything they brought for Thanksgiving, like the food, the whatever it is. It was enough because the money you need as a shepherd to send your child to school is not as much as the money you need now to send your child to school. So after splitting your returns to three, whatever comes to you and your workers are still enough with the Thanksgiving, no matter how small it is.
And this is a
Okay.
peculiarity in Celestial Church of Christ. I have not seen any other parish where people bring Thanksgiving items. Other churches do Thanksgiving, but people actually bringing forth Thanksgiving items like domestic appliances,
Bread.
materials that the shepherd can use, like
eggs,
bread, egg,
food,
food,
yeah.
soaps, and all those things.
Mm.
Now, comparing our Celestial of now today to that of old, would you say that this particular practice has improved or it has eroded with time?
Bringing food items to church, Celestial Church of Christ typifies the Israelites. where you bring things, livestock, things of your farm produce, and
Yes.
a whole lot of things to church. So, Thanksgiving in Celestial Church of Christ is not just you giving thanks for God, what God has done for you.
Yes.
A lot of people bring things to ask for what they want from God.
Okay.
Right.
Like, I bring food to the house of God because I want something to happen for me. So Thanksgiving most times is a way of a prayer point.
Yes.
So now
Okay.
back to what we're saying, splitting into three. It used to work back then. But now, number one, we have more shepherds. We have more workers in the church. We have more parishes. Members are split. Now, when you make your 20,000 naira per Sunday, and at the end of the month you have 60,000 naira, you remit one to the headquarters, you put one on the church account, one goes to you. It has to be you and your workers in church.
Can you clarify the difference between the headquarters and the church?
The headquarters is the administration, the K2, the Eleko, whichever pastor you
And then
you
the
are
church
under.
is the church.
Yeah,
the
the
parish.
church is the parish,
The
like the
parish.
church
Yes.
account.
Yes.
Okay.
Like probably the church has one need. They needed to buy this, they needed to buy that. They remove from
Direct
that.
question, sir.
Yes.
Do you think our church is inundated with ministers? Do we have too many ministers catering for the flock that we have? Because we churn out ministers from the seminary, we churn out ministers from training, and then we have to account for those who don't even think that they need training. Those ones are there. So do you think that we have too many ministers to go around?
Definitely we do. Because 10 years ago when I got registered, I was given 15,000 something. That was my registration number. That means as of 10 years ago, there were 15,000 registered shepherd.
Mm.
In
Celestial
the
Church of
whole
Christ.
church as
The
a
whole
whole.
church.
In Celestial Church of Christ as a whole.
Okay.
There were 15,000 registered shepherds.
So you mean there
Now,
are shepherds that
10
are not
years
registered?
ago, yeah, there are shepherds
course,
that are not
of
registered.
course.
There are
Okay.
shepherds in ministry for the past 40 years that are not even registered.
They don't even care.
Definitely, I've met some of them. Now,
Okay.
10 years down the track, let's talk about 40 to 50,000 in numbers. So definitely, and anybody can just wake up in their room now and just create a ministry on their WhatsApp, add people, and say they want to do a program. So now we have more programs in Celestial Church of Christ. We have more ministers than even members. Everybody just breeds ministries now, which I think the authority or whatever body should look into because it's getting so tiring.
Okay,
Right.
sir. Before we go on a short break, I would like to ask you. You have told us what brought about the SLM movement, the Shepherd Lives Matters. The 2020 grant that was promised.
Yes.
Was that promise met?
No, the promise was not met
Now, please,
because
can you briefly tell us about the promise, how it came about, and what ensued afterwards?
the promise was made online. It was everywhere. We could still check for it, the proofs.
Was it confirmed
what
that
was
it
the
was
Yeah,
from
it
the
was,
pastor?
it was because it was
Okay.
posted with the church's official page.
Now, for the sake of our viewers, what was the promise and what gave birth to it?
The promise was they called it Shepherd's COVID palliatives,
Okay.
and they told us to go to a certain website to fill the form, our name, our registration number, our parish, and our account numbers. That a certain money is going to be portioned into the account, which everybody did. And
You mean shepherds submitted their details?
shepherds submitted their details. I did. I
Okay.
did for my father was still alive then. I did for my father
Okay.
and a whole lot of people.
Okay.
So after then, we waited, and we saw that money was given to Ogun State government, and we were waiting. And they told us, because I had a conversation with one of Papa's son, who used to be a part of the administration. He told us that the pastor was not aware
Of the arrangement.
announcement. And I said, but it was posted by the church, and they said truly it was posted from the pastor's office, but the pastor was not aware.
But how come something gets posted from the pastor's office
and the
without
pastor.
the consent or the pastor being in the know?
We've seen that lately. We've seen a lot of press release. Somebody will just wake up, do a press release, and at the end of the day, the pastor's office will come out and debunk it that it is not so.
Okay, so sorry,
Wow.
direct question before we go on the break. Didn't you think it was a wiser decision to have catered for lives that were dying? Like,
Well, I think even without COVID, when a shepherd dies, the money that goes to your family is 40,000 naira.
That's a registered shepherd.
That's even a registered shepherd. That is even if you know somebody at
And
the
is there
office.
I was about to ask that. Is there a bureaucratic bottleneck? I hope you don't have to go to
Yes, you
K2
have to.
and you have,
The money that was given to me when my father died, they told us from the office that the province had to contribute that money to us. It wasn't
Wow.
directly from the office.
That's a lot.
this is a
Okay.
point to go on a very short break. We'll be back.
See you.
The Celestial Perspective Podcast, bringing you a fresh perspective on the Celestial Church of Christ.
Welcome back, everybody. So we were talking about something that we can't just brush over, and I honestly cannot wrap my mind around it. You said 40,000 for the family of a shepherd who passes away. 40,000 naira. Tell us your own personal experience when you lost your dad.
My personal experience when I lost my dad, we were given 35,000 naira. And we took the news to the office, blah blah blah, and they told the province to arrange for us.
And you said the 35,000 wasn't even from the.
My father was the first person that laid an altar at Mowe, Bafo, and Environ. Our church is about 40 years now. So he's
40
not,
years.
yeah. So he's not somebody can just brush aside. But when it has been on stroke, he has been paralyzed for about 15 years that we have been neglected, and
Wow.
that is what made me more passionate about the lives of shepherd, because the judgment that were meted to my father was so bad.
And sadly, this is the case for many shepherds, because this is just a microcosm of what we have on the.
Definitely.
Now,
Definitely.
what I see is a lot of people, digging down or zooming into shepherds and their moral and their perceived moral decadence, and all forms of ills that a lot of shepherds engage in. But nobody's talking about the pressures.
Yeah, when something is wrong in the church, the shepherd is who people will first abuse.
pressures.
A video goes viral, the first comment you see,
shepherd.
the shepherd is not training them well. Somebody drinks alcohol in church, the shepherd. Somebody dances, the shepherd.
But sir, don't you think the shepherd should be held responsible for his flock?
Definitely, the shepherd should be held responsible for his flocks, and the shepherds should be well taken care of as they are being bashed too. There are some things that happen in church that the shepherd is not even aware of.
Now, would we say, I know that nobody should be excused for wrongdoing, but can we categorically blame shepherds when they are driven into vices because of certain lacks or inadequacies in terms of resources or finance? For instance, we've seen or we've heard of a lot of shepherds who engage in fraud, some who give false messages also that they can feed themselves. I know it's quite easy or some of them who engage in spiritual works for fraudsters, or for
commercial
people who
sex workers.
or commercial sex workers. It's quite easy to say that this shepherd is paganist in ideology, or this shepherd is not worthy to be a shepherd. But these are one of the issues that we must discuss. Has lack or scarcity or paucity of resources led to some of these misbehaviors by shepherds?
Well, I want to say this point blank. No matter what you're facing, going into vices, things that are not morally supported, should never be the way out.
Never be the case.
Before we become shepherds, in fact, before we become Christians, we're first a member of a family.
Yes.
So definitely, each family, each background has what is called ethics. So when things are not, even before you even quote the Bible, there are some things that ethics tells you not to do. So you engaging or you calling people, giving them false messages because you're hungry just shows the kind of person you are as a person, not as a shepherd. It shows the kind of person you are as who you are, not as being a shepherd.
Because many shepherds will say, I wanted to pay the school fees of my children, and because there's no program by the church to cater for these things. There are churches, before you say something, sir, there are churches that have scholarship programs for the children of pastors.
Definitely.
There are churches that have special programs even for shepherds or shepherds' wives and all these things. And now, it could be an excuse. Allow me to be the devil's advocate here. So, and a shepherd can easily say, "Look, I did these things because I was hungry."
Let me give you a personal instance. I'm a shepherd, so I'm a perfect example. You can always I live outside the church. In fact, very far away from the church, because I want my children to grow to know me as a father, not as a shepherd. I want my children to, I don't want them to have this Aika mindset. So I rented an apartment very far from the church, and I can tell you for the past 3 months, my rent has been due, and I've not been able to pay it.
Wow.
And do you know,
Wow.
I have people in my
Wow.
church who are well-to-do that I can easily call, but I can easily give false message too that, God said you should do this and bring money. But, I will not do it because number one, I don't know what might happen tomorrow. And I'm not somebody that loves to bother people with my own personal need because they are human like me. Now, I'll wait on God. I've put it in prayer. I've told God, if you want this thing, and if you want me to move back to one room in church, there's no problem. And I believe God is going to make a way. Definitely. So, I could have gone that way, but I didn't. And the house rent is still there. It's still not paid.
Now, about this, we are in a church where most of our ministers are full-time ministers. In aberration to other churches where most of their pastors have a side hustle. Some of them are even directors in companies, in firms, in banks. Some of them are lawyers, practicing lawyers, practicing doctors.
Yeah.
But in Celestial Church, we have a church where majorly to become a minister in this church is almost, assured that you would have to be 100% minister, forsaking everything or any skill that you must have had before. Now, would we say that there's a biblical precedence for this? Say like Paul, who was a tent maker, who doubled as a tent maker. So why is it that our shepherds and our workers in the vine are full-time ministers? Why can't they sort themselves out? Or at least before they became ministers, certain skills that they must have had, why just shove that away, in the closet?
Now, I'm going to answer you in 2 ways. The first way is celestial shepherds might not be able to work because, number one, there is a spiritual obligation that says you have to be in church jingling the bell every 3 hours, and you have to share the grace. Every 3 hours, the bell in your church must sound.
3 hours.
And this
3
has
hours.
to be done by the shepherd.
Now, there are parishes that the shepherd cannot afford an assistant, just like I'm saying.
Okay.
He can't afford to even have church workers because what he himself is seeing cannot even feed him, talk less of the workers.
If such a shepherd
Now,
is a vulcanizer, for instance, what stops him from
from leaving a customer's tire at the middle of work? He leaves a customer's tire and runs back to church.
But I feel
Now-
like there'll always be workers. in
Now,
the church.
secondly,
Are there churches
I
without
need
workers?
you relax.
Okay.
Secondly, there is something that makes a shepherd. The moment you receive ordination, you go from an ordinary man to being a king. The moment you receive that anointment, you become a king. Now, even in the real sense, there are some people that they have been given spiritual messages that they can't walk under somebody, that they have to start their own thing. Now,
Yes.
the moment you become a shepherd, you become the top of these things. You are not somebody just call. Kunle, wa, walorakini ko wa fun me.
But some people would say that that's some form of deception. Because there are pastors in other denominations. Would we say those ones are not called by God too? Or are they not
we
kings?
say they are not kings.
Because,
in other denominations,
Okay.
in other denominations, they close the door of their churches. Some of these denominations rent apartments to run their churches.
Or the
Celestial
Syrians.
Church of Christ is a church that has no door. It should not be closed at any point
At any
because
point
they
in
can
time.
bring a sick person and you're at work, working. They brought a pregnant woman who is laboring and they said, oh, you have to pray for this person. Or they brought a mad person to church and they said, Olusho ti lọ sí ibiṣẹ́. Olusho wà ní ibiṣẹ́. Olusho máa dé ìrọ̀lẹ́, ẹ ní sùúrù, ẹ dá aláìsàn dúró, this is the church. In Celestial Church of Christ, other denomination comes to our church to beg for alms.
What kind
My
of
church,
arms?
money. My church is located around Redemption Camp. My church is in Mowe. And when Redeem finishes their congress or whatever they do every month, they will trek down, those of them who cannot afford to go back to Lagos, they trek down to our church. Sir, we need money, we need your help. I came for camp, I came from program at camp, and we used to do it. And in fact, it has become an habit. Whenever I had to say, I want your inbo, because they know I love listening to the preaching of Baba Debe, I want your Lushombo. We have to give them. Now tell me, these are the obligations of a shepherd in Celestial Church of Christ, to be available 24/7. Now, back to your question. Why can't we have a side hustle? We are not, I spoke with somebody, the Akeju of the blessed memory, when Shepherd Lives Matters campaign started. He told me to pull down the hashtag, that it could spite violence, because we were actually planning a protest. We were planning a whole lot of things. So I said, okay, no problem. And I told him, he said, there is a lot in the hands of the authority to attend to, that they may not be able to take care of shepherds or to give them whatever they need.
So which means that on our priority list as a church, shepherds' lives is
it doesn't
quite
really matter.
inconsequential.
Even the anointment of shepherds are more expensive than the anointment of ordinary members.
Should anointment cost money in the first place?
It does.
Now, you mentioned somebody that I used to know very well of blessed memory, Akeju, and he was in a very, at some point, he was in, I think, in part of the administration.
Definitely.
And so there were certain, I would say, controversies, that I was privy to the information at the time. Now, it brings me to the question. Can a shepherd who is not popular, who does not have funds, so to speak, but who is qualified to be posted to a big parish, can he be posted to that big parish based on merit, without greasing palms, without knowing somebody in the high places? These are questions that, because there are a lot of allegations.
I'll say this to the camera, and I'll say it for a record. Nothing happens on merit in Celestial Church of Christ.
That's a bold statement, sir.
Yes, I'm going to stand by it 100 times more.
Are you trying to say there's some sort of corruption?
Nothing. I wouldn't call it corruption.
Okay.
If you call it, you use the term. There shouldn't be corruption in the house of God.
What should be the word?
Well, I would say I wouldn't use a denotative word. I'll say man, no man.
Okay, can you just give us the next few minutes elucidating this, sir?
Yes, because even when you are super good, when people, there are shepherds in this church that we know that are very good. But once you have issues with somebody at the office, they would downgrade you to nothing.
Okay, so can the word
personal issues?
Okay.
Personal beefs.
Can the word be politics?
Yeah. Let's use spiritual politics.
Politics. And sir, you mentioned a statement that shepherds should have a side hustle. So are you trying to tell us that?
No. His argument was shepherds should not.
My argument was shepherds should
cannot.
not.
No,
Cannot.
that
But
statement,
there are some things in the church right now that I believe shepherds can invest on personally, without you working under somebody or without you opening a shop for it.
No, I'm trying to pick your words and say your words as they were. You said shepherds should have a side hustle. So are you trying to tell us now that the gospel, the church, the ministry is a hustle on its own?
It's not a hustle.
Okay.
I said side hustle, which means you are facing the gospel while you are doing something which is hustle by the side.
Okay, think about it.
Now, something like, let's think about it. Celestial Church of Christ doesn't have a production perfume company.
On incense company.
On its own, or an incense company.
Okay, should the church be considered a business strategy?
The church can bring in a business mindset to grow financially its workers. Imagine me having a perfume company, like with the little I save, then I knew how to make perfumes. I make perfumes for my harvest. I make perfume for churches that wants to do anything, but I don't have the what's it called? The capital to do it big. Now, imagine me doing it big and employing some of my church members to work with me. That is, I'm elevating some of my church members financially as I'm elevating myself.
There is an administrative side and there is a business side to every organization.
Definitely.
be it a church or a mosque or an NGO or the government, there has to be an administrative side, and there can be a business side. I know of the Catholic Church. Most of the materials that they use are produced by the
Definitely,
Catholic Church.
even
Yeah.
Jehovah Witness.
And so
There are
there
Watchtower
are people
publications that are produced by them.
there are people in the employ of this church who earn a living because there are certain things being produced in the church. We are a church that is based on a lot of materials. We use oil,
Candles,
we use candle,
Definitely,
perfume,
we use
Definitely.
perfumes and all that.
Inspire-
and we
Paris, all
buy
of
all
that.
these things from
Even
outside.
garments.
The people producing perfumes are not even celestial.
So
surprised
what-
me when I discovered that Miss Paris is not a Nigerian
It's not
product.
a Nigerian product.
And I am
And
certain
it is
that
the
the
most
market
used
of Miss
market.
Paris, the major
It's
market,
celestial.
Yes.
Celestial
I
Church
feel
of
like they should
Christ.
come to
See,
Nigeria.
in
and
my
just give us
my
one
church,
big
we
trophy.
use as much as 5 big perfumes per Sunday. That's about 2,500 naira per one, and that's because my church is
Wow.
still few in number.
5.
I
Mm.
know
That's it.
I've worshipped in a church that they used more than 10, 15
Yes.
per Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
We used turari to the tune of 10, 12,000 naira per Sunday. And don't forget, I told you we make about, let's say we make 20,000,
So this
25,000.
business that you're talking about, sir, don't you think the church would like to centralize it and not allow the shepherds to have shareholdings?
You can only centralize something that you build on. And that might even take us to another topic, because most of our parishes, we have more landlord shepherds than transferred shepherds.
No.
Which means in my church, if I'm a landlord shepherd, I can do whatever I want with my church's name.
So are you a landlord shepherd or
I'm not.
transfer? Okay.
I'm not a landlord shepherd. I'm not a trans. I'm just a worker for God.
Well, you said your dad built.
Yeah, my dad built doesn't make me the landlord.
Okay.
That brings us to the succession.
Okay.
I was about to talk about this, but I'm glad that my co-host,
Yeah.
has mentioned this succession.
Mm.
When it comes to the shepherdship in Celestial Church, I have found in many cases whereby many shepherds have a parish or build a parish and then build a second parish and then have their son, one of their sons, lead this parish. To the point of they have like 4 or 5 parishes, and in each parish is a son,
The children.
their
Mm.
children leading the each of the parishes. Now, many have said, and they would use this Yoruba adage, wípé ojú olójó lè dàbí ojú ẹni. Can we say that this is the perfect plan of God for a celestial Church of Christ? With the events surrounding the descent of this church and how God has raised people in the time past who later became shepherds. Is this a right thing?
If we are to challenge shepherds' sons
Mm.
succeeding their father, then we are to challenge the authority of the church, Baba Shofa's children succeeding their father too.
It's just one child so far.
And another will be there.
What if the next person is not an
Yeah,
Ashofa?
let's wait till then.
No, we can't say Baba Oshofa's
No.
children succeeded him.
Let's wait
Because we
till
have
let's
just one person.
let's wait till then.
I'm
not interested.
I don't think a conclusion should come.
No, I'm not.
should
No.
come to that yet.
I'm not concluding that, because
Okay.
when you fight or when you say, "Oh, why is this person there?"
let
they'll tell you,
me ask you a difficult question.
Okay.
Sir.
Okay.
Is Celestial Church or the pastorship of Celestial Church, is it an Oshofa dynasty?
Is it? Well, I'm not the best person to answer
ask
that. Yeah, but lately we've seen a whole lot of things. We've seen somebody becomes the shepherd of a particular parish
Mm.
because their father is so person.
Mm.
We've seen somebody do this and they tell you, "Oh, it is." We've heard. I don't want to quote people.
So which
We've
means
heard. No, now I'm not using that to justify
Yeah.
a shepherd's child succeeding his father.
Okay, because
In fact, I'll say a shepherd's child succeeding his father is carrying more burdens. Somebody like me taking over my father's church, I took over nothing.
For instance, a child who is not called
Now
by
you
God.
can say a church like KOK, and you say the shepherd's child succeeded him. He succeeded something. Now, I would prefer a shepherd. Now, tell me, we are talking about a shepherd's child who got a calling. I'm talking about those who are called now. Whether you are called or not, I'm not the judge of that.
Yes. Nobody is.
I don't
actually-
even know if God calls you or he doesn't call you. I
Yeah.
only know myself, and I can only confirm myself.
Yes.
Now, let's use an example that somebody built a church and God really called you and God called his children. Now, and it's difficult for that father to buy probably another land or anything. Or now this child went to seminary, graduated. Tell me, how many churches does the Celestial Church of Christ administration built for shepherds who are graduating from seminary? None.
I said this on one of our former episodes, and I'm saying it again. I think personally that we have too many parishes.
Definitely. So now they are not building parishes, but they are registering shepherds every day. They are giving people superior evangelists every year.
I was with our producer yesterday, and it was during the evening service as we drove by. That church is very small to the point where the shop
In
that they are
Lagos
using
here, in Lagos here.
in this area, sir.
This area.
And now you are
The
now
shop that
tell
they are
me,
using is
tell me,
only the candle stands that can stay there and the altar. Everybody is on the slab that the government made to adjoin the road.
It might be a prayer
and
center. Are you
It's not
sure?
a prayer.
It's
They were
church.
holding a Friday evening service
Now-
Oh my
that started
God.
by 6 p.m.
if that could happen in Lagos, tell me what could happen in a place like Oshogbo, Ekiti.
Mm.
Tell me the kind of churches or parishes you find there. Tell me the kind of state or situation they will be. We went to visit somebody during the Shepherd Lives Matter campaign. It brought me to tears. His church has been demolished. This man has no house. His children had to go and squat with their friends. This man, somebody gave him a shop to be sleeping in. We went there. Somebody called our attention and we went there. We saw this shepherd. He brought out all his returns receipt.
And this is not to even talk about shepherds that have a lot of health conditions.
Definitely.
You know, some of them are diabetic, some of them are hypertensive, some of them are
My father lived
survived
15 years
stroke.
on stroke. 15 years on stroke.
Do you think we should be sentimental about the fact that they are shepherds and the church has to cater for them?
The church is in a place to cater for them because, number one, any organization, Celestial Church of Christ is registered, right? I think it's registered under Corporate Affairs Commission. It has, the
Yes,
name was
under the
registered.
CAC,
So
yes.
it is a standard organization.
Yes.
Mm.
Now, every organization that has more than 5,000 workers, in fact, every organization that has more than 100 workers should have a plan for whoever is working there.
I agree, sir.
And that will bring us to the solution when the time comes.
Okay. Now, before we go on our short break, we're discussing Shepherd Lives Matter. So, Shepherd's Lives Matter. Okay. The grammar has to be correct.
Yeah, it has to be.
Point.
Yes. You know, recently there was an issue in a particular parish, I think in Aja. I might not know the specificities of what I'm talking about, but I know the shepherd. I
Yeah.
met him once before while I
Yeah.
was a little boy. We used to call him Olisho Aso.
Olishoaso, yes.
He was beaten,
Mm. Yeah,
you know,
I remember.
up to an inch of his life because of a false accusation. Now, can you tell us a little about this and what ensued as a result of this?
Yes, we've seen a lot of criticisms, even from our fellow Celestials, that some people said, were they meant to park a sock away in the midnight? Some people said, was it meant to be that the shepherd has something he's hiding? And I told them.
So
you
he
know,
got a private contractor to empty the
to
cesspit,
empty
the cesspit.
Yes.
And the contractor
It
fell.
fell.
And this happened in the middle of the night.
Yes, and the assistant shepherd was even trying to rescue the person, fell too.
Fell into the same
Fell
ditch.
into the same pit. But unfortunately, the person died.
The
and the
contractor
assistant
died. The private
contractor
contractor
died, and the assistant was hospitalized. So the word was out that he used the private contractor,
So,
that
sir,
he
sorry-
used them
sorry
for
to cut
rituals.
you. Don't you think it is suspicious to have walked in the midnight?
It is not. I've lived in rented
They
apartments
call
before.
them night soil men.
I've lived in
Okay.
rented houses before. Such practices are mostly done
In the
in
night.
the midnight because
Yes.
of the smell.
Yes.
Okay.
So with people saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have that," I would just sit down and be like, "Come on, it has happened in my church before, but the person did not die, unfortunately."
So how did he get to the point where he was beaten?
Yes, the private contractor was an aboki man.
Okay.
And his fellow Aboki people, they don't hear words.
Right.
They just came, attacked the church, looted things from the church, and somebody just came. A blogger came and said, "Oh, they were trying to use
That
the
body
man for
parts were
ritual.
missing.
That body parts were
So,
missing.
sir, can you confirm?
No body parts was missing.
Okay.
Babaso was an upright person, a good person.
What gives
I
you
can
this
attest to
level
that.
of assurance?
I have
that
because
no body parts was missing.
we have the assurance. The police came out and released the press statement
That no
that
body
they
parts.
did autopsy and no body part was missing.
Okay.
So it was a false accusation.
So what did the Celestial Administrative Body do as a result of this? Are there charges being pressed?
They put the picture of one blogger on their blogs. They win the CCC and Real Celestials and co. That we should start looking for the person. They were cyberbullying. Come on, you need
It should
to
be
come
deeper
up
than
with
this.
Yes.
Cyberbullying is not what we.
In fact, I'm thinking of a situation where we can have shepherds union.
Do we have the
A union where shepherds, if the authority cannot, they do. Them bloggers do. They have the picture of the first man.
They know the person.
Yes, the first man that carried the news.
So bloggers
And the second lady that carried the news. They have both pictures. They have both pictures.
Sir.
The bloggers have both pictures.
Wow.
I think even deeper than the cyberbullying or the cyber
Legal
attacks,
action should be taken.
I believe that judicial action should be taken. Because that's how people learn. If you don't take
Definitely.
action,
What if he has died?
I'm telling you,
Gone.
would
They'll
have
give his
lost
family
a
40,000 naira.
pious, iconic
What
shepherd
if in the
in
context
CCC?
of the man falling into the pit, something broke in his body and was actually missing?
So are you trying to say
Only
that
God
there was
knows.
a missing body part?
There was none.
No.
I was
Okay.
just saying, what if
Okay.
it has happened like that? They will say definitely
Okay.
he used the man.
We
I
promise that at
understand.
this juncture we'll go on a break. So let's keep our
Thank you.
promise.
All
We'll be
right.
back shortly.
See you.
The Celestial Perspective Podcast, bringing you a fresh perspective on the Celestial Church of Christ.
Welcome back. Sir, if we continue from today to tomorrow, we cannot exhaust the unique challenges that our shepherds face. And so we can't keep talking about the problems. We have to talk about the solutions too.
Definitely.
And there was a particular news that I heard whereby there was a 5% rule that was introduced by the church administration. Can you tell us something about that? And if it has helped the situation of our shepherds in this church?
Yeah, they told us to the new idea was for every parishes to remit 5% of their monthly what they see, apart from the 1/3 of what you make, you still remit another 5%. And when I heard that, I'm sorry to say, I think it's when you are in need, probably when the person is ill or in needs an urgent help. So probably they will ask you for the receipts of the 5% you send. But now it might work for some parishes who make a lot of money. Just like I said, there are some parishes that makes as low as 7,000 naira in a Sunday. And that 7,000 naira doesn't even cover for fuel. Doesn't cover for the things they use. So most times, a lot of shepherds that are watching me knows that many shepherds are paying monthly returns to K2 from their personal pockets.
How's that even a thing?
Okay, does that mean that there's a kind of consequence or punishment for
There
not
is-
remitting?
Yeah, if you don't remit to K2, you cannot get anointment.
So they make
You
up
cannot
for,
be promoted. You
So
cannot
what you're
get
saying
anything
now
from
is
the
they
church.
make up for
Sabotage.
the money
Yeah, they needed to. They need
from
to.
their own pockets.
Yes, a lot of shepherds that are watching me right now will know, and they can confirm
So
this.
before you go on, the 5% that is remitted, is it from the church remission or the shepherds?
All the general money you make in a month, maybe you make 200,000. You first of all remove 5%, then you now share the
The
remaining to
5%
3.
goes to
The
headquarters.
The headquarters.
And so what's this money
So
used
they
for?
call it welfare for your shepherd,
Mm,
which I don't know.
So that 5% from this parish is
allocated.
kept
yeah,
for the shepherd of that parish.
of that parish.
In case if something goes wrong.
And now it is not that you have an account with the headquarter which belongs to your shepherd. There's no sorting number. There's no sorting code. There is no serial number.
So what if this particular shepherd aids this church to give 5% for 3 years, and he
And
leaves
went
this
to another,
particular
leave
parish
this
and goes to
parish
another
to
parish and has a
definitely,
stroke.
and that is why
in
I
that
call
parish.
it. I can't. I'm not permitted to use that word online, but I'm not going to hold back. It is more or less like a spiritual fraud. Yes, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm standing by my words. I'm standing by it. So why couldn't there be? I once visited a shepherd, Baba Shofora of Sharon Parish.
I think I know him.
I and my team, Comfort Kiki, Baba Kiki's daughter, who's now in UK, and one of our colleagues, we went to visit Baba Shofora in church during this campaign, and we went to solicit for help. And he sat down with us, and he said he had about over 40 workers in his church. Now, when somebody has over 40 workers and you split their monthly money into 3, do you think 1/3 can feed 40 workers, talk less of the shepherd?
That church has to be as big as, I don't know, like as big as a city.
Now, he said he has an insurance policy for all his workers. They are registered with a particular notable insurance company. That if anything should happen to any of his workers, they are entitled to some millions.
Them or their family?
Their family, probably there is demise or anything, their family can collect some millions of naira.
Okay.
Now, if that could happen for a parish,
At a parish level,
why can't Celestial Church of Christ? I told you, my registration number is 15,000 something. I won't tell you my actual is big so that they will not go and pull my file. My registration number is 15,000 something. And I was registered 10 years ago.
So now it's probably
Now
doubled.
tell me, it can't even be double, because the rate at which people get calls now, is triple the rate of when we
Exponential.
had it. Yes.
Wow.
exponential.
So now you tell me what the numbers will be now.
Mm.
Now, if a church that has over 30,000 workers cannot register with, let's say, AECO Insurance or a notable insurance company, let every shepherd has a file. Let us have a serial number how we can pay our insurance fee. Give it to our children. I will be happy to be paying insurance fee for my father because I know whenever anything happens to him, I will be at rest. Why can't we do something like that? Are there people at the office sabotaging this thing?
Now, we have gotten to the point where we have to start discussing the solutions. If you were in position to make certain enactments, tell me the first 3 things that you would do.
Number 1, I'll look for the first 1,000 shepherds in Celestial Church of Christ.
What do you mean by the first?
The first registered 1,000 shepherds.
What if they're no more?
All of them couldn't be no more. My father was 700 and something. He died 2 years ago. He has family. He has a wife. He has a widow. He left.
So what happens?
Look for the first 1,000 shepherds. Check their state of living. Is it up to the standard? When the root is destroyed, some of these old shepherds are cursing the church. Some of them are not living well, and their state of living is laying a curse on this church.
Even without them saying
Even without them saying it. Look for the first 1,000 registered shepherds. Compensate them. If it is 200,000 naira each, just give to their family, like, okay, for a job well done. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm still talking about that. Number 2, let me say number 1A. Let us have a credible insurance and health policy.
Is that number 2 or number 1?
Number 1A. Number 1B, rather.
Okay.
Let's have a credible.
Is it for the 1,000?
No, not for the 1,000. For everyone now. Somebody like me now.
Okay.
I said I became a full-time shepherd 12 years ago. Now, if I've been paying insurance fee, if I've been partnering with an insurance company, and I'm still going to do this job, God knows, maybe for the next 70 years, and I partnered with an insurance company for 70 years, how much do you think Zion, who's my daughter, would be collecting when something happens to me? Now, let's have a credible, even if it is 2,000 naira, a shepherd can afford per month to be paying, even from his own pocket. Definitely, if the church is not giving us money, we have 1 or 2 people that comes to church and say, Olusho Egba. Your church patron can say, Olusho, move 5,000 leni. Your this thing, Olusho, I give you this now.
This envelope and that envelope.
Yeah, definitely. So from that, personally, you can do it. And for that initiative of what's it called? Of pension, of insurance to work, the word needs to get down to a lot of people. There are some informations you pass. See, some province head don't go to meetings. Some province head will hear information, get to meeting, and say another thing.
Honest truth is, there's no incentivization for unregistered shepherds to be registered, because the registered ones
The
are not even
registered
getting
one are
anything.
not getting any benefits,
anything, no
definitely.
benefit.
So when we have this, recruit young people. Let us make an advert. Let's make an advert for you as a shepherd, that if you are paying this thing, this is how your end is going to be. This
Let
is
them
what
know.
you're... Let them know.
Sensitize them.
Definitely. Let them
Convince
know.
them. Let them see reasons
Now,
why.
Recruit people. Let them go to rural areas with no social media. Let them go. Let them tell them about this thing. Give them a sort code, something they can just dial on their phone, and that money is deducted immediately. And they send them a confirmation that your insurance money for the month of January has been removed.
If a shepherd knows that if anything happens to him, his family will be well taken care of,
Definitely.
I don't think that he would hold back
That is it.
from making such contributions. So where are we? 1B?
That is 1B.
Let's just
Okay.
And that is number one.
Okay.
Second
Now,
point.
number two, there has to be involvement of young people in this church administration. And when I say involvement, I'm not talking about because somebody is the son of Baba Alpha Ponda, you have to employ him to the office.
Because
Sorry,
that's...
Or because somebody is the son of Baba Enrile,
Yes.
you have to put him in the
Sir,
office.
speaking
Yeah.
about young people, are you saying young educated people or any
Young,
young person?
educated
Vibrant
professionals. We have
professionals.
people who are bankers before they became a shepherd.
Correct.
Yes.
If they can't work at the bank anymore, employ them to the administration.
To the service of the church.
Definitely.
Mm.
I used to be a graphic designer. I used to create content and a whole lot of that. I do it for my church. Every Sunday, at least I'll post a flyer and they'll say, it looks good. I use my Canva. I'm not lobbying for posts in the administration. In fact, me and them, we can't be on the same page because I'm so troublesome for them. Now, employ people who are young, vibrant, educated to that particular field. Let there be an involvement. Let there be an engagement. So don't just say because somebody is the son of so, we have to put him here.
Yeah.
Because somebody is the son of so, we have to put him here. It's killing the church.
All right, sir. Do you mean the elders are not capable of handling
The
those
elders
positions?
have done beautifully well. They are our fathers.
You see,
But
Okay.
Yoruba people used to say, Aja iwoyi, lo mo iworo iwoyi le.
Okay.
You cannot
can we try and
deal...
translate that? Anybody in the house?
Yeah,
The
you
dog-
cannot
Aja iwoyi
deal...
lo mo ehoro iwoyi.
Yes,
The
it
dog
is
of
the
a
now.
contemporary dog
Yes.
that can chase a contemporary rabbit.
Boy.
Definitely.
A round of
Because
applause for me.
because
A round of applause for the chief host.
a dog of 1947 cannot chase
A rabbit of
2023. So the way things are done during the days of our fathers, the way things are done, you cannot see. There are Gen Z shepherds now.
Mm.
True.
There are Gen Z shepherds now. There are Gen Z church members.
Mm.
People that will come to church like, oh, this is what I come to church for. And they will stand on it.
True.
And they will say there's nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
I seen somebody that says, don't back with Jehovah, Jesus Christ, Holy Show, Michael,
In fact, that's a topic for another day.
that's it. You know, they want explanation for everything.
Yes.
They want it.
An inquisition or having an inquisitive mind is not a crime.
It's not a crime. Definitely, they want to know more things.
Just a question.
Yeah, so they want to ask questions. Ibo lọ́lọ́run ti sọ pé ká má ṣe kíní kan. Ibo lọ́lọ́run ti sọ pé ká má ṣe kíní kan. And you sit down and be like, daddy mi ò kọ́ mi léléyìí.
Bí wọ́n ṣe sọ fún wa
So
nìyẹn.
now, if you don't...
Ìlànà ni.
ìlànà rẹ̀. So if you don't
Hallelujah.
employ or bring in people that can actually tackle the challenges of today, the church will continue to be backward.
And just talking to what my co-host said, this is not a matter of whether the elders have done things right. Or
By the way,
not.
this thing is
not.
very beautiful.
Oh,
Thank
Yeah,
you
let
very
me
much.
just
It's from-
pause and
By-
appreciate this.
body
By one of our
health
sponsors.
baskets by Body Secrets. Thank you
Yeah,
so much,
yes,
sir.
Okay, I hope this is not a free advert, actually.
We'll pay you, sir.
I finished my own, so it shows how good it is.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank
Right.
you.
You know, coming back to what we're talking
No,
about
that
first.
is my number 2. I don't
Yes.
know if you have questions on
Sir,
that.
do you let my
Yeah,
chief
I was
host-
about to say that it really doesn't have much to do with whether the elders have done their bit or not. In every organization, most especially in the kingdom of God, there is always a stratosphere of responsibilities. You know, like we have in was it in Numbers, where the young people were fighting the war. Moses and the elders were on the mountain.
Yeah, they were
Moses
raising hands.
raised his hand,
Yeah.
and he began to get weak.
Yeah,
and
so
the
everybody
elders,
has their parts.
and Aaron held his.
Just like my church patron used to say, we are in the 4th generation of Celestial Church of Christ.
Okay.
The first generation were Baba Shofars and all.
Mm.
The second generation, only he knows the names of all these babas. Now we are like the 5th generation. There are some generation coming after us. So if we don't tackle their present challenges with the present solutions, we may have issues.
So you can see that according to this illustration, this biblical illustration of Numbers, Moses and Aaron, the old men, could not go down, to the valley to fight the war, but they were on top of the mountain doing what God asked them to do.
Definitely.
That was their responsibility. It was the responsibility of the young people to fight the battles.
Definitely.
So I think one of the problems in our church is we can't recognize what should be responsibilities that should be chiefly carried out by the young people.
By the young people.
Even to the tune of transfer. You transfer there are some level of shepherds that can be transferred to some parishes because they believe they are not old enough to head that parish. Which I'm thinking age shouldn't even be a criteria of being a shepherd of a church.
But to speak to that, there are some churches that if you send a young man, he might not be able to.
That is the issue. That is the issue we are having. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
So are you saying now, sir, that age doesn't matter and a shepherd is a shepherd?
A shepherd, quote, a shepherd called, trained, and ordained.
Okay, so we have 3 things.
So regardless of
a shepherd
the age.
called, which is the foundation to be called.
Yes.
Trained.
Then he has to be trained.
And he has to be ordained.
And then he has to be ordained.
I'm not talking about all these social media people or somebody that is fortunate to just buy a land and build a church. When I say a shepherd, yeah, and it doesn't have to be a prophet. I think the invasion of prophets into shepherdhood is what scattered everything for shepherds.
All right, so is there a particular age whereby shepherds can emerge from?
No, there is no particular age. God called Samuel at a very, very young age.
So I can be 20 and be a shepherd?
Why
you
not?
can be 20 and be a shepherd. I was 20 plus when I got registered.
Is there no rank that qualifies you for being a shepherd?
And that is the problem. People think you have to be of a certain rank because you're a shepherd. I got my anointment as a shepherd, as an evangelist 11 years ago. Evangelist. And my second anointment came like 5 years ago, which is senior evangelist. If I am to tread the path of 2 years given to every shepherd, I would have been a superior evangelist by now. But I felt it's not needed. I don't need the ranks to be relevant. I don't need the ranks to operate or function.
But now we have cases whereby people who are not ministers wear the ranks of ministers.
I have somebody who is not a shepherd that is wearing superior evangelist. He doesn't have a parish and is wearing superior evangelist.
That's serious.
Yeah.
Is there a regulation? Is there a body that regulates
that? There
that?
is no regulation, and that is the problem. There is no once there is
people
money,
just do whatever
once
they
there
want.
is money, they give you anointment.
So,
once you take money there, they give you anointment.
So we are on number
3.
Number 2.
2
Now
of your
number
solution.
3. Number 3.
Yes.
There should be computerized database for shepherds and workers in the church.
That's a lot.
A computerized. Like me as a shepherd, I should be able to log into a particular website with my serial number and my password. Upload my latest credentials. Upload how my church is doing there. And if I go to a parish, probably I have Iwaso Ridge or I have something, they should be able to log into the church official website, put in my serial number and check, okay, this person is a shepherd truly.
Actually.
There has to be the Celestial Church of Christ needs to move from files. You go to the office, you see files. Paper file. God.
In an artificial intelligence
do you mean
age.
someone can just go a situation whereby an elder in the church or an anointed person in the church can go to a website and just see whenever he has a preaching or whenever he has to take the service?
Definitely. If there is a database, I can upload best of my sermon. Like I got here today now. I told them to log into YouTube.
Right.
I told them to search for my name. And they saw my sermon there and we were watching since morning. What is more beautiful than that?
Okay, so I have a direct question for you.
Yes.
You are a quote-unquote landlord shepherd.
I'm not a landlord.
He said
I
he's
don't build a
not
church yet.
a
I haven't
landlord
built a
shepherd.
church yet.
So if you were a landlord shepherd, let's just put you in
In the court of a landlord
in the
shepherd.
court or in the mind of a landlord shepherd, would you agree to be transferred?
Would I agree to be transferred?
Yes.
Especially if you're doing well in your church.
If
and
I'm
then,
doing well in my church,
yes.
if they will transfer me, what they do is they will look at the standard of the church I built and the standard of where they are transferring me to.
It's
Being
the,
a
it's the
transferred,
calling of God now.
relax,
It's the calling of
being
God.
a transferred
That's
shepherd.
conditionality. Oh.
Yeah,
the calling
that
of
is
God.
because
There shouldn't be
it is not the
conditions.
fault of the shepherd. It is the fault of the people that are transferring you.
Okay, so
Being a transferred shepherd give you more peace of mind and gives you more money than being a landlord shepherd.
why?
Because
so?
you don't have to sort anything in the church. The church bulb got burnt. You don't have to buy it. They want to, the harvest is coming. You don't have to run
But the
elter to buy
transfer
cow.
system, is it based on meritocracy?
I've said it earlier. Nothing is based on merit in Celestial Church of Christ. It is based on who you know and what you can spend.
You're repeating the statement.
Definitely, because I'm very sure of it.
Okay, sir.
So, which means that you would not fault a landlord shepherd who refuses to leave his church.
I will never
on
fault
transfer.
him. I've seen his church secretary slapped a transfer shepherd before.
But don't you think we're all under the authority of God?
I said something just now. I have
Okay.
seen a church secretary slapped a transfer shepherd.
Slap.
He slapped him.
So, but
And the
because
shepherd was crying. It happened in Ilaro. You can confirm it.
well, because of these ills, now these are vices that you cannot completely extract from the whole the holistic calling. So many things will happen. I'm sure that to you, a couple of things have happened in
Definitely. Definitely.
in your own story. You
Definitely.
have to
A lot.
We cannot say because a transfer shepherd was slapped in a particular parish, and so we should stop transferring shepherds.
No, they
Shepherds.
won't stop. I'm just saying there has to be a system that fights for a shepherd. That shepherd that was
I
slapped,
agree, sir.
that shepherd that was slapped was immediately transferred because the secretary wrote a letter to the headquarters immediately.
After he slapped,
After he slapped him, he still wrote a letter.
But so I think there should be
And
a
they still,
foundation.
that is what I'm
There should be
saying.
a
We are talking
foundation.
about shepherd lives matters now.
Okay.
Now, if a shepherd was slapped, what are the measures taken by the church?
Another question is this: what should be the relationship or the hierarchy in decision making when comparing the shepherd with the parochial committee of the church? Because we've seen in many cases whereby the parochial committee of churches would,
Want to override.
you want to override the decision of the shepherd and say, almost like the consciousness that he is an employee of the church. So, what's the, if you juxtapose this, what would you have to say?
All I'll just say is shepherds should focus more on the spiritual aspects of their churches.
And so they should leave the administrative.
To the
And does
committee.
it mean that the shepherd cannot have a say or two?
Whatever the admin concludes, it is, in quotes, important to confirm with the shepherd first that, shepherd, we have made these decisions to start doing in the church. We want you to go through them. The ones you have contrary opinions to, you can tell us. This doesn't happen in everywhere. This doesn't happen. Committees just come and say, okay, this is. I've been to a church where I went to minister and the shepherd gave me something like, he doesn't have money, he doesn't have what his children are going to eat. And it's okay, I'm going to raise money for you during my sermon. And I raised money for him and the committee took the money. They didn't give him one naira. They said it belongs to the church. And there was nothing he could do because he begged his way to get transferred to the church.
Wow. Should a shepherd retire?
That is part of my number one solution.
Retirement
There is
plan.
a certain age you have to get to, and your body, some part of your body stops working.
But
and
sir,
that is
if there's
when
no preparation, a
that's it,
shepherd
yeah.
can't just retire.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying.
That's
If
the
there
solution.
is insurance and pension policy, if a shepherd gets to a certain age,
Just rest.
where are you transferring an 80-year-old man to?
So, okay, if we look at it this way, then obviously transfer shepherds would gladly retire, but landlord shepherds would not. Because they say, this is my house.
If that happens, if people are getting pensions, and a landlord shepherd knows that if he's retiring, at least his pension is about 12 million naira, you see many retirements. In fact, it will start happening now. You see many retirements. See, there has never been anybody in this life that doesn't want peace of mind. Being a shepherd comes with a lot of things.
Our shepherds are doing so much.
It comes with a lot of things.
I always say that the work rate of the clergy in Celestial Church supersedes every other church that I know, because they are always on ground. They pray hourly. For those who are actually true to their responsibilities, they pray hourly. And you would observe that the members of the church depend on their shepherds for all their needs. You would be surprised. There are certain things that shepherds should not even hear about.
Some
that a
shepherds
doctor
are
should
some
hear,
shepherds
or
are
a-
feeding. Some shepherds are feeding
I'm
members.
telling you, things that
On Sunday, some members will come to you and say, "Olusho, mi lo moto lati lole."
this one
From your
happens.
pocket.
This one happens.
You have to give your church
Yes,
member.
yes.
All right, so a quick one. What do you think? How do you think we can filter out the supposedly bad eggs in shepherdhood in the fold?
We will filter them out when the church authorities want them to be filtered out.
How so?
No amount of words we say on a podcast, on the blog, on social media can do these things until the church authority put a standard down.
Mm.
That until you can call you. See, I see bloggers calling themselves Olusho now. Somebody with WhatsApp ministry.
Olusho
Olusho might just be
blogger.
a slang
No, not slang. Oh.
as it is right now in our
As
world.
it is, because there are some ranks you wear that honorary is supposed to be at the front. And you see people wearing that rank without putting honorary, wearing a shepherd's rank. Because they can afford to get the anointment. Now, if all these things are not put in place, if you cannot ask for credible things from a man before you anoint them.
What credible things, sir?
Come on. You need to be trained.
Okay.
Who trained you? Where is your recommendation letter as a shepherd?
Okay.
Where is your last anointment certificate?
Okay, so you're trying to say there should be a training ground.
There is a training ground already. There is a
Okay.
seminar. We have a seminary.
Do all shepherds?
All
go to-
shepherds don't attend the seminary.
Okay.
Some attend private Bible institutions.
Okay.
Or at least you need to have a knowledge of the word of God.
So there's no mandatory Bible school for shepherds.
There is, and that is the Celestial Church Seminary.
mandatory.
It is not by force.
Okay.
Because I'll say this on air. Maybe the seminary has been reformed. I have not seen a product of the seminary that can actually.
We had the chairman here on one of our
Okay,
episodes.
so I won't say anything
you
about
know,
that again.
we would have loved to continue this conversation, because we cannot exhaust or overemphasize the importance of our shepherds and why we should take care of them. But we would have to peg.
And I want to plead
Our podcast.
to our members too. Please, always look into blessing your shepherds without them asking. Some of us are too we have this conscience that doesn't want to make us, because we know you are going through a lot.
Yes.
But from the little you have, if you bless,
Yes.
if somebody gives me 10,000 naira now, I'll be super happy.
Right.
Yes,
A lot.
because it's a lot. So I might not be able to ask you.
Yes,
But if you give it to
it might
me,
be
I'll be
difficult.
happy.
It might be difficult.
I'll be
So
very
if,
happy.
if as an individual who God has blessed, if I want to, if I need the list maybe of the first 1,000 that you talked about earlier, would it be accessible?
If the office can provide it. But
But
I
would
have,
they
I have
want to?
if-
If I say, okay, I have 100,000 naira for each of the first 1,000 shepherds in Celestial Church, or their families in case they are deceased, would I be able to have access to that list?
I wouldn't know.
And would there be credibility as to the registration numbers?
They will have to produce their numbers. Some
Okay.
of them have ID cards. Then, during the days of Baba Shofa, things were in order.
Okay. Okay.
Things were in order.
Everybody,
Okay.
Yeah, things were in
So that
order.
we don't start episode 2 without doing.
Things were in
We
order.
thank you very much
All
for
right.
being with us throughout this journey,
Thank
and
you.
we hope to see you on the next podcast. Remember, I am your host, Joseph.
And let me
Erenle.
add this before you sign out. I have a
Sorry,
directory.
you keep
I have a directory of over 400 shepherds that I need. I have shepherds
Now,
that
Shepherds
reaches
Lives Matter is a foundation.
is a foundation. It's a
Okay.
registered under Corporate Affairs Commission.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
So I have shepherds that I personally, from my nothingness, I still reach out to.
if somebody sees this now and
Yeah.
wants to support SLM, how do they go about this?
They should reach out to.
I can see some caps here, sir.
Yeah, I have
Let me have
some
my own, please.
caps.
No, Joseph.
That's
Okay,
mine.
it's two. It's two.
Okay.
All right. All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank
My
you,
name
sir.
is Joseph Erenle,
And I am Oyinkan. We're signing out as your hosts on the
the
Celestial,
Celestial Perspective
Podcast.
podcast, bringing you fresh perspectives, true perspectives on the Celestial Church of Christ. Thank you, and see you on the next
time.
episode.
Bye.